Good evening and welcome to the HR Talk Show of HREnlight. I'm your host Pooja Bansal and I'm here in conversation with President and CEO of Jade Global, Karan Yaramada. Hi Karan, how are you?
Hi Pooja, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine and thank you for joining us for this talk show.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you. So Karan founded the organization in year 2003 and is an alumni of Harvard Business School. Under his leadership, this organization, Jade Global, has been in the top 5,000 Inc. companies, in the fastest growing private companies in the last 9 years in US in a row. So Karan, to begin with, why don't you tell us about the inception of Jade Global?
Yes, Pooja. Jade Global was born in 2003, July. Then I was working for one of the big four consulting companies, KPMG, Bearing Point. I left a well-paid job and, with a vision to bring the best value to our customers and really, apply the technology and, create some new value and differentiate ourselves embarked on, and creating a new company and new vision. We started as an Oracle consulting company, and we started doing some Oracle upgrade projects, and this was a complete bootstrap then in 2003. We started growing because our customers were really delighted, and they started asking for more, and then we started doing more, and we started expanding ourselves. And so the journey started in 2003, and we acquired so many customers. Being in the Silicon Valley, many top tech companies are our customers today.
Very interesting. So at this note, tell me, what were the upside and downside of setting up an organization globally, and then of course having a 100% subsidiary in India?
So having, so we are a US-based company, and also we are in Silicon Valley. So, we deal with, cutting edge all the time, because the expectations of our customers being in the Valley, like companies like Facebooks and Twitters, they have very high expectations. So we are, really to match, to even beat their expectations, our customers' expectations, we got to be much, much better than any average company. So we are very strong, deep in technologies, and we couldn't have done that without having our India as our really the strength as an offshore development center. So Jade Global founded in 2003. We started our offshore development center in Pune, in India, in 2005. And we started hiring some of the best. And, quickly our India ODC has become really, a strength to us because, and then later we started in Hyderabad as well. But overall in India, 75-80% of our employees are in India, work from India offices.
So at this note, interesting to know that when you have employees working in the US, you have employees working in Indian subsidiary. So what comes most naturally to all your employees across the globe?
So, I'm very focused on building a really good company culture because, as once Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
That's right.
So it's so important that, to really build a great company, the culture is the most important. And also culture, you cannot build culture just by talking.
That's right.
Culture must be practiced. Culture should be driven from the top. Culture should be led by example. And it doesn't matter whether it's in India or US or Canada or we have multiple locations globally. But the challenge is there's always a local. We have to be cognizant of the local sentiments too. But the core, if you see, the principles behind building a culture, like integrity, trust, honesty, transparency. I think these are universal, timeless principles. So we actually build our culture based on these universal, timeless principles like, integrity, trust, honesty, transparency. And also, we encourage, people to take risks and make this a really safe place to work and a safe place to really experiment, right? So I think having offices globally, I think actually in a way helps us, makes us stronger because each location, each country, they bring a little bit different perspective. So we become better because we have to deal with different sentiments. But at the same time, I think, Pooja, I want to mention one thing. From the beginning, being a US-based company, we started in US first, and India is a fully owned subsidiary of US. So we started in US. So initially, one thing that we really emphasized on bringing that US work ethic to India. And even today, we really do that because we want to take the best of everything. So we see what's good in US, what's good in India, and we want to blend that and then really build that the best culture, best of both.
So this is very interesting. So why don't you tell us what are those two highlights of the US culture that you thought is a good idea to cascade in India, and even vice versa?
Absolutely. So let's talk about productivity, right? Work ethic, I would say. So when it comes to work ethic, this is what I have observed. People in US are more productive.
Okay.
They may work only 7.5, 8 hours a day, but they can do a lot more. They're very focused when they're working. Mm-hmm. But what I've noticed in India, people hang out in office 10, 11, 12 hours. Mm-hmm. But I think the productivity is not as much. Mm-hmm. So we want to bring that, when you're working, you work hard. Mm-hmm. Go home and enjoy with your family. Mm-hmm. That work-life balance, right? So, and then on the other hand, people in India, we see that they're, really eager to learn things. So the best part about Indian culture is, people smart, number one, and ready to learn, mm-hmm. Ready to stretch, go above and beyond. Mm-hmm. And also, people are flexible in India because, sometimes it's good to, it's not always black and white, it's gray, and people know how to deal with that ambiguity in India, more than what I've seen in the Western. Mm-hmm. They want to be, they want to know everything before, they want to be very clear. And I think people from India, that helps, dealing, because when there is a complex problem, there's a complex structure set up, and you have, very challenging customers, there's going to be ambiguity. When you're dealing with so many different people, there's going to be ambiguity. And I think dealing with ambiguity is one important aspect of leadership and the culture. And I think we picked that from India. And being, I half my life I lived in US, and half of the rest of the life I lived, before I went to US, I lived here for 23, 24 years, and my foundation, started here. And, and then that I think is today, if you look at some of the CEOs of the big companies, mm-hmm. They're really excelling. I mean, they're doing great. I think one of the reasons, they learned from very beginning how to deal with that ambiguity and how to deal with the complexity. I think that helps.
You mentioned that people love to learn. So would you want to share with us what are those 2 or 3 top actions as the CEO of the Jade Global that you invest into the learning of the people in the organization?
Right. So we are in the technology business.
Right.
And technology is changing very fast. In my 25, 30 years career, I started from mainframes to went through so many different phases. And what was hot 15 years ago, 10 years ago is, phased out today, irrelevant. So I think it's so important that, if you are in technology, you have to continue to learn. So that's one technology aspect. But the second, what I've seen, people that are very technical, very proud of their technical skills, they ignore the other part, which is soft skills, the leadership skills, management skills. So I made learning and development as a priority at Jade. We very early we created a L&D department, and we fund that department directly reports to me, highest priority, and we emphasize on continuous learning. And learning means everybody, not just the college interns or not just the junior people, but the learning at Jade means everybody learns, including me. For example, I went back to Harvard Business School after starting the company. In 2010, I went to HBS, and I got my alumni status in 2014. It took me 4 years, but it was very important that I learn, because I never want to become a limitation to the company's growth and taking the company to the next level. So, and I do the same thing, whether it's the leadership team or the management team, everybody, we really emphasize on learning. Learning should be, every day is part of the job. And the other thing that we do is, we tie the career framework and the learning journeys, and we show the path to everybody that if they have to grow in their career, how can they do it? Right. What are the gaps? How do they assess themselves and self-assess, and then see, what else if they have to become, let's say, someone comes as an individual contributor, they want to become a manager, senior manager, director, they want to go become a leader one day, and they have to be able to see the path and also see the gaps. And then they should be able to see, okay, I have to take these 5 courses before I go to the next level. So, people can plan their career. So we are not there yet in terms of, completely connecting all these dots, but we are getting very close. We want to use AI, ML, machine learning, artificial intelligence. We want to create learning buddy and use technology for learning. We already use a lot of e-learning. We have a lot of content. And we use the system to track, and we partnered with Franklin Covey, and they provide a lot of content, a lot of on-site, the classroom training to our leadership team, and so there is a lot happening in the L&D, and it's one of the key parts, one of the key strategies. Learning and development will become, even more important in the future, I would say.
So can we safely say that you invest a lot of your time, besides, of course, the budget approvals for learning and development of the employees?
Yes, absolutely. And I watch very closely, and I'm always part of, reviewing, how we are doing, how are we using the technology, how are we, and some of the measurements, scales that we create. So I'm part and parcel of really the whole strategy, not just approving the budget, but really, watching and helping and being part of that execution as well.
Great. Sounds really interesting. At this note, you mentioned in the previous part that you also encourage employees to take risk. And this is something that, if you could help us understand, that how do you inculcate this culture of taking risk? Right. And what do you do when people make mistakes?
Right, absolutely. Great question, Pooja. So best learning is, the lesson that you learned by failing, right? And I encourage people to fail fast. It's okay to fail, because when you do a mistake, if you realize that you made a mistake, then that is the biggest learning that you can have, and that's the best learning that you can have. So we create a very safe environment. We don't punish when people take risks and fail, and it doesn't show up in their annual appraisal, and nobody is taking vendetta. So it's kind of creating a safe environment for people to take risks, and when they fail, and encouraging them and say it's okay because things happen, and but let's see what you learn from this. What is that you will not do it if you have to do this again? How would you do it? Asking those questions makes them feel safe, rather than oh, why did you do it, and intimidating, right? So I think, how do you deal with that person when they fail? How do you make them feel safe, and then also assure them that this is a good thing, that and then what is the takeaway? I think discussing that is more important than talking about too much about consequences, because that's anyway obvious, and they know that too. So we don't have to talk too much about consequences, but what is the takeaway? What's the lesson? How would you do it again if you have to do it? I think those are the right questions to ask, and that's how we make it more like feel safe. So it's also very important to celebrate failures, because that makes everyone else who is not part of the failure, makes them feel like it's okay to fail.
So considering Jade Global, what is that one highlight about the culture of Jade Global that you would never want it to change?
Integrity. I think the integrity is one of the key elements, whether you want to build trust, whether you want to really do the right thing. Integrity is at the core, because like I say, integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching.
Right.
I think that's very, very important to us, to our organization, and to me too. And in today's world, it's a dog eat dog, and everybody wants to cut the other one and win. Nothing else matters. But I think that's the biggest difference between us and any other company, or there are a lot of good companies that we look up to, but I think what we really foster is integrity is at the core, and then trust based. And also one thing that my vision is to create a frictionless organization. There shouldn't be any friction between the employee to employee, colleagues, employee management, Jade to a customer, right? So there should be, less friction or no friction, because friction means politics. Friction means, slow, and friction means less productivity, and friction means more bureaucracy. So we want to really minimize or eliminate that friction between any one individual or entity. So I think that's another important aspect.
You touched a very soft part of any organization, and I think it's quite a difficult situation that a lot of companies face, is the cutthroat competition among the employees, among the management and the employees. So how do you think, or what would be your advice to manage this kind of a situation? So how do you still encourage a healthy competition?
Absolutely. So I think we have patience. One thing that I would say is we are here for a long term. We are not thinking short term. We are not thinking quarter to quarter. We are not thinking, just winning the next big deal. So we are setting the foundation to build a great company for the next several decades. So we are in this, and we do everything that we do. We think about, how is this going to help us in the long term? How is this going to make us better, stronger? That being the focus. Short-term things happen, but if we have to win them, on a merit basis, we have to be best.
Right.
So we better focus more on how to improve ourselves rather than just winning. So it just focus on the fundamentals rather. That's how I see things, and that's how I think it's not an easy task, because the short-term pressures are always going to be there for anyone. But having those principles as a core foundation, I think helps us. I think ties all of us together, because at the end of the day, that moral compass, when nothing else works, what do you rely on? What do you depend on? That one thing. That's what it is.
And how do you actually share your experiences, your opinions with the employees in the organization?
So in terms of communication, we have very open and transparent communication mechanisms are both formal, informal. We encourage everyone to just, there are no, we are a very flat organization. We are not very hierarchical. Okay. And that's the other culture part. In Western countries, there is, you could be talking to your boss, supervisor, like a friend. And, but in India, we are a little bit more hierarchical. So we try to bring that here to be less hierarchical, just think bigger picture, and a little bit more democratic rather than autocratic, even decision making, inclusive, right? Include people. I think inclusion is a very important aspect, and diversity. So we encourage really diversity as well. So we encourage open and honest feedback. Right. We have both formal, informal communication mechanisms. Like I share the status of the company every quarter with every employee in the company. I travel every location. Mm-hmm. I meet people. We have when I visit our offices, I meet people both formal, informal. We don't keep any secrets. I would say we share all the good news, bad news, and I share where the company is, where company is heading. Celebrate some of our milestones, successes, and also appreciate people what they how. Also, it's very important to tell people that how they are part of the bigger picture. Right. Everybody wants to know where do they fit in the organization, and they need to know. They need to hear from me. So that's what I think we do. Highly encourage others also, my management team, the leadership team, also to do the same thing. That let people know how they are part of this organization. What difference do they make? What they do every day, how does it impact the overall company? Mm-hmm. So the communication is a key aspect. We want to inform everybody who we are, what we do, how are we doing, even whether it's a bad news or good news. I think we must share.
And how do you celebrate certain successes and milestones?
Oh yeah, so of course we have awards, and besides awards, we encourage managers, the leadership, mm-hmm. to continuously elevate, recognize people. It doesn't always have to be an award or certificate, but just let everybody know, the entire company know what a great job that they have done. I think that is very important, because when people work hard, it's easy for someone to say that you worked hard, you have done a great job, and you made a difference. Right. So celebration doesn't mean, we do a lot of formal celebrations. We have annual events, and we celebrate winter party, annual picnic, and annually we do merit awards. We do quarterly awards. We recognize people for successfully doing things like above and beyond, excellence. People that, let's say, travel a lot. We pick some, few people that have traveled the most as road warriors. Mm-hmm. So we make it a fun. I think this is a fun part. Being at Jade, like they get to really, enjoy that, the community sense of, belonging here. They make, people make very good friends, lifelong friends here, and they enjoy. I think it has to be, end of the day, people work hard, but the work must be also enjoyable, because it's not always the results that count. The journey matters too, because how do you get there? It's important to get there, but how do you get there? Is it, by torturing other people, or is it really making it's fun for everybody? So when it's fun for everybody, I think it's exponentially sweet when you reach there. So we all celebrate.
And what do you think are the reasons that employees would join this company, and what are the reasons that the employees would continue to working and contribute to the company?
So one is the culture, but they don't know until they come here and work. But the other thing that we do is, being a Silicon Valley company, we do really work on the cutting edge technologies. We just stay in the forefront of, the breakthroughs. And even if you look at some of our customer logos, they are the next generation companies, really breakthroughs, like whether they are in the alternate energy or green, or really innovating something completely new, breaking the old business models and really disrupting. So that is one thing that we do. We work on the latest and greatest technologies. That attracts a lot of people here. And besides, of course, once people come here, they see the culture, they see that this is a very flat organization. There's a lot of opportunity to grow because the company has been growing, like you said, 9 times fastest growing Inc. 5000 company in a row, and that kind of gives us that. The visibility, and then also, it attracts the talent. And the other thing that what I see, that people come here, since the company is growing, they get a platform to grow, right, and achieve their career goals. And end of the day, it has to be they have to have that sense of satisfaction when they work for a few years, whatever the number of years that they may have worked. But at the end of the day, they look back and say, okay, these number of years were really worth. I really learned and contributed both. I think that that's why people, we are proud that we have lowest attrition in the industry, and we for many years. I think people come here and then they just build their the community there. I have seen people that have joined. They went through their life cycle. They married and then they had kids, and then their kids are now grown and in high school. Like, people have been working here for. In a 16-year-old company, we have so many people that have worked for 10, 11, 12, 13 years, still working and very happy, and they've grown with the company.
And when you recruit people, what is that one quality that you look for in the individual before releasing the offer letter for the person?
So besides, the technology, knowledge, experience, aptitude and all of that, I think one thing that I see, aptitude, experience, I think the one thing that if I have to hire someone, one thing that I look at, besides all of those obvious things, is attitude, the ability to adapt, and ability to really, listen to other people. It's something called empathetic listening. Not just listening, but so the empathy is so important. Putting yourself in other shoes and thinking, how would that feel? How would that? So I think that's very important, because if the person has the right attitude, can overcome many hurdles. Because ability to work as a team, ability to collaborate, ability to really see the other's point of view, and then also ability to learn and grow, and less politics, and more productivity and focus on making this a great place to work, I think is very important.
And what are the next milestones, or what are the future plans of Jade Global?
Great. So we are rapidly growing. We are expanding. In the next few years, what we see that we're going to expand geographically. We are still in only about 10 to 12 states in the US, whereas there are 50 states. There's a huge opportunity for us to go expand within United States. And opportunistically, we are also in the other countries like Canada, Austria, Australia, Philippines. So we see that in addition to the organic growth, we are also looking at some inorganic. That really helps us to grow faster. So we are growing fast, and we'll continue to do that. But one thing that I would say is, it's not that we want to build a big company. It's that we want to build a great company where employees matter, They would want to work here. They build their careers. They learn. They really enjoy working here. And at the same time, customers. The customers should depend on us, trust us. We are trusted advisor to our customers because we help our customers to run their business. And it's very critical to their business. It's so critical that if we don't do our job, they're going to be in trouble, right? And so we are a very critical part of our customer success, whether it's their growth and their success. So it's that we want to be that company where our customers trust us, and our employees really like and enjoy being part of this journey. And the milestones are there, of course. We're every 2-3 years we are doubling in terms of the size, and we continue to add more services to our portfolio. And one of the biggest things that I haven't mentioned earlier is, we have innovation center. We call it Jade Labs. Again, Jade Labs, like L&D, Jade Labs is innovation center. We do a lot of experimentation. Again, that's fully funded, reports to me directly, and it's been more than 3 years now. We filed some patents. We got some patents published. We created some of the latest cutting-edge disrupting technology solutions using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and that helps our customers really go through that digital transformation journey, and it accelerates that journey. And so the innovation is key part of that. And I see that in the future, we continue to invest in L&D. We continue to invest in Innovation Center, Jade Labs. We continue to expand geographically. We continue to really focus on the foundational, the culture aspects of the company. And we continue to build a leadership team. So I think so my goal is to build a great company, and the company that will be here for many, many years.
What is your top advice for the other CEOs who are looking forward to build their companies?
So in my experience, what I've gone through and what I've seen, for me, starting a company, taking from 0 to 10 million, 10 to 20 million was a different ballgame. But growing beyond 20, 30, 40, 50, it's completely different. So I actually evolved several times during this last 16 years. I think my advice is, as the company grows, as you become bigger, you have to grow, you have to evolve, and help yourself find a way to learn, find a platform to learn and grow. And never stop learning, whether you're CEO or head of the state, head of the country, whoever you are, doesn't matter. You got to learn because there are so many changes that happen, and either you learn or you are dated.
So on this note, as Karan rightly mentioned, every organization needs to continue learning. Thank you, Karan, for being here on the talk show. It was a pleasant experience talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Pooja, and I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion.
Thank you so much, and HREnlight signing off.